What happens if the Earth stops rotating instantly? Everything not bolted to the bedrock continues moving. At the equator, the ground vanishes from beneath your feet. You are now a projectile traveling east at 1,000 miles per hour. This is an inconvenient start to the day. Inertia is a cruel master. Buildings, cars, and terrified cows maintain their orbital velocity. The atmosphere does not stop either. Winds reach supersonic speeds. Concrete walls become mere suggestions. Everything in your neighborhood is suddenly a high-velocity missile. The shockwave liquefies most structures. Humans are effectively converted into organic confetti. It is less of a crash and more of a global redistribution of matter. Your commute is now significantly faster. The air is the real problem. While the crust stops, the gaseous envelope keeps spinning. This creates a global windstorm of unimaginable proportions. Friction between the stationary ground and the moving air generates immense heat. Forests ignite instantly. The heat turns the surface into a giant stovetop. Entire cities are scrubbed clean from the map by the sheer force of the wind. Ocean water is no longer contained by coastlines. Massive walls of water surge inland at Mach 1. The geography of every continent is rewritten in seconds. Most of the land is now underwater. This is particularly problematic for coastal real estate agents. Their portfolios have transitioned from beachfront properties to deep-sea trenches. Let's pause the carnage. If you survived by standing exactly on the North Pole, congratulations. You are now the only person on Earth not currently a smear of jam on a wall. However, the view is not great. Everything else is on fire. The planet is not a perfect sphere. Centrifugal force from rotation bulges the equator outward. Stopping the spin removes this force. Gravity now takes the lead. The planet attempts to reshape itself into a perfect ball. This causes a massive migration of water from the equator toward the poles. Two giant polar oceans form. A single massive supercontinent emerges around the center of the globe. This new landmass is dry, barren, and completely devoid of surviving infrastructure. The redistribution of mass causes the Earth's crust to buckle. Mega-earthquakes ripple through every tectonic plate. Volcanoes that were dormant for millions of years wake up and decide to participate in the chaos. The sky turns a permanent shade of charcoal. It is a very loud time to be alive. The silence only returns once everyone has stopped screaming. The disaster extends beyond the crust. Earth's magnetic field is generated by the spinning liquid iron core. No rotation means the dynamo shuts down. The magnetosphere vanishes. The solar wind now has a direct path to the surface. High-energy particles from the sun strip away the remaining atmosphere. Any surviving organic matter is blasted by lethal doses of ionizing radiation. DNA unravels. Proteins denature. The surface becomes a sterilized wasteland similar to the moon. The only thing left are the ruins of a civilization that once worried about parking tickets. Night and day are no longer a matter of hours. One side of the planet faces the sun for 6 months. The other side freezes in an eternal radiation-soaked darkness. The temperature gradient creates weather patterns that make a hurricane look like a light breeze. The thermal currents move heat from the day side to the night side with violent efficiency. The planet has become a giant, irradiated radiator. It is an inefficient way to heat a home. The kinetic energy release is staggering. The sudden stop converts rotation into heat. The crust doesn't just crack, it melts. Massive oceans of magma flood the newly formed supercontinent. The planetary scale of the event triggers orbital instabilities. The moon is confused. The gravitational shift slightly alters the lunar orbit. Tides become erratic and violent. The surface is now a swirling mixture of boiling lava, radioactive gas, and the frozen remnants of the polar oceans. Everything that ever existed is now just a thin layer of carbon in a sea of molten silicate. The Earth is no longer a blue marble. It is a glowing, red-hot charcoal briquette floating in the void. Any hopes of a rescue mission are dashed by the fact that the rescue team is also currently a layer of carbon. Space agencies would find the data fascinating if they weren't currently vaporized. The cosmic perspective reveals a small, bright flash of energy followed by a very quiet, very hot rock. The universe continues as if nothing happened. In the grand scheme of galactic time, this is a minor accounting error, a brief flicker of heat in a cold vacuum. Scientifically, you have converted the Earth's rotational energy into heat and kinetic chaos. The result is a sterilized, non-rotating sphere of magma. However, there is a lingering legal issue. Since you were the one who stopped the rotation, you are technically responsible for the loss of all global infrastructure. Your insurance policy likely excludes acts of planetary inertia. The underwriters will probably deny your claim. The paperwork for a total planetary collapse is notoriously tedious. You will need 3 forms of identification. So, if you find a button that stops the Earth's rotation, do not press it. The commute is faster, sure, but the lack of an atmosphere and the liquid magma floor make the trade-off quite poor. Just take the bus. It is safer. What happens if we replace the moon with a giant disco ball? Find out in the next video. Subscribe to the What If Club. Your curiosity is our chaos.